Dinosaurs. The most sophisticated, best engineered, highly adapted survival machines ever created by nature.
These guys were very successful.
165 million years of evolution gives these prehistoric giants weaponry, defenses, and advanced sensors able to put modern animals to shame. Now, with cutting-edge imaging technology, we can go deep into a dinosaur's body and reveal how adaptation makes them stronger, cleverer, and tougher.
For me, it's the ultimate mystery. What allowed them to be so successful for so long?
Dinosaurs are the planet's ultimate living creatures. They survived for over 165 million years. The key to that success are bodies well designed on the outside and precision engineered on the inside. Their advanced physiology comes down to one thing: adaptation, the result of both natural and sexual selection. Over more than 10 million generations, these giants continually improved, creating a better dinosaur than the one before.
Natural selection is eliminating those animals that are not smart enough to do the job they need to do, eliminating the clumsy, and favoring those that have the brain power to accomplish these complicated tasks.
Evolution means some species thrive while others are driven to extinction. And in animals with such dangerous armaments, competition for survival can be deadly. Late spring in the Cretaceous period. Adolescence is a critical time. Dinosaurs are preparing to mate. Some will succeed, others will fail.
In Darwinian calculus, you can be the finest hunter in the land, and if you can't attract and hold on to a desirable mate with desirable genes, you're a loser.
A loser whose genes are about to come to an abrupt end. Mating is serious business with significant repercussions.
A male looking at females, and a female looking at a male. What they're doing, without actually thinking it consciously, is evaluating the potential genes over there. Are your genes good ones? Well, your genes mixed with my genes make a really healthy, very competitive youngsters.
Clues that males are approaching sexual maturity abound. The crest on an adolescent Parasaurolophus is now fully developed. Triceratops' horns have grown from little stubs pointing backwards to lethal weapons pointing forwards. And Tyrannosaurus Rex has staked claim to a territory of his own. Males soon-to-be adults fight for the chance to prove they're the best. Females choose carefully. Only the strongest, fittest, or most intelligent males will do. And when it comes to reproducing, something else is critical: timing.
Most big predators today breed only during a short interval in the year. Actually, most animals today breed only in a short interval, a couple days or a week or two. The outstanding exception being that peculiar predatory species, Homo sapiens.
For egg-laying animals, it's almost always in the late spring or summer. That way the eggs can be incubating during the summer, during the warmest part of the year, when the climate is the most amenable to the production of young.
To know when to mate, dinosaurs react to the change of seasons.
In the weeks leading up to the breeding season, there would be hormonal changes taking place in the body of the dinosaur that are triggered by passing time itself, by the length of the day, for example.
As winter recedes, the days get longer. Sensors in the back of the eyes respond to changing light, transmitting crucial information to the brain. A signal triggers the pituitary gland to release the hormone gonadotropin. These chemicals prepare their bodies to produce eggs or sperm. Raging hormones also trigger dramatic changes in behavior, and very different changes in males and females.
For the females, that means stockpiling resources to produce the offspring. For the males, that means figuring out how they're going to beat the other males at the game of reproduction itself.
They're more alert, they're more visual, they're being more aggressive, there are more fights. You're getting a whole cascade of social complexity, which would be really fun to watch.
With hormones racing through their veins, a carnivore's advanced killing tools become even more deadly. Between the ages of 15 and 18, the mortality rate for meat-eaters like T-Rex increases 5 times. This is the age adolescent males begin to challenge older, more experienced males. Battles may start over a mate, but they can quickly develop into a death match.
There's going to be some threshold, some test that the male has to pass to get the privilege of mating with the female, get the privilege of reproducing.
Fights break out over territory, bravado, and of course, to impress females. These clashes are shows of strength, meant to prove who has the best genes. Fortunately, most of the time, the aim is not to kill your opponent.
It's all about getting your genes into the next generation.
Evolution tends to favor types of displays between members of the same species that are not necessarily lethal. That it becomes clear that the one who wins that match has something better than the other ones, a healthier pattern, a more vigorous display, hinting at a better internal condition, a more healthy condition.
One of the things that seems to be true in the animal kingdom today is that when animals have extreme structures, they do use them as display boards, as advertising boards, especially during the breeding season.
Weighing in at 6 tons, Triceratops are the street fighters of the Cretaceous. For this brute, the most powerful herbivore of all time, evolution means getting stronger, tougher, and meaner. And those are exactly the traits females look for in males. Triceratops' bony frill forms a defensive shield. A strong one is a sign of strength and power, but maybe it advertises something else as well.
The frill might have evolved as a defensive measure against predators. It might have evolved as a species recognition character. But there's no reason why it couldn't have been taken advantage of in the evolutionary process as a sexual billboard.
So a Triceratops' frill could, like a peacock's feathers, be a display of virility. One clue is that it changes color. The bone that forms this shield is riddled with a meshwork of arteries and veins. In times of stress or excitement, hormones are released into the bloodstream, arteries in the neck widen, and blood rushes to the frill, turning it blood red. It's a ritualized drama with one single goal.
You're going to have to demonstrate to the females that they're the biggest and healthiest and perhaps smartest of the males, that they have earned the right to reproduce by proving themselves worthy.
Earning the right to reproduce means earning the right to influence the future of your species.
I suspect this whole dance had pretty much been choreographed through their lives, where they came in and then locked horns and started pushing.
When bull meets bull, there could be potentially a long and prolonged fight, not just snorting, and they did snort, and pawing the ground, but thrusts and counter thrusts.
Just kind of like an arm wrestle using their horns.
For males with horns a meter long, 6 tons of muscle, and a shield made of solid bone, competing for a mate is full of risk. But for a female creating the next generation, it means hard work and facing life or death choices. Failure can mean bringing youngsters into a brutal world, a world where they simply don't stand a chance. During the Cretaceous, dinosaurs evolved into the most physiologically advanced creatures in Earth's history. A Sauroposeidon can reach 18 meters tall, towering over its surroundings. Quetzalcoatlus is a flying reptile as large as a giraffe. And Tyrannosaurus rex is the most powerful carnivore to ever stalk the planet. All these traits are the result of evolution. Adaptation over millions of generations. But evolution is harsh and ruthless, especially for males. One by one, natural selection and sexual selection leave the weak and the timid behind.
Most of the males are probably not going to be reproducing. So if you're a male, the problem is making it into that small percentage that are actually going to be sending their genes to the next generation.
Evolution doesn't like losers. It only works when the best genes are passed on to the next generation. It's the law of the jungle, and the spoils go to the victor.
The Darwinian calculus is this: if there's a large group of females there that you can control as one male, then you're going to risk fighting another male. The payoff is so big. If you win 20, 30, 40 cows, that's big.
The reward may be huge for the lucky male, but fatal accidents can and do happen. Trying to rule the pack can end very badly for a young novice. Females have their own concerns. They must prepare to bring a new generation into the world, a new generation that needs to be a little bit better than the last. Fossil records show that dinosaurs needed to prepare for mating early in life.
One of the things we're finding in common for all dinosaurs is that they started reproducing when they were still growing. And this tells us that life was cheap in the age of dinosaurs.
These dinosaurs may be young, but they've got plenty of work to do. They must ensure that they're in good health, well fed, and have plenty of nourishment for their unfertilized eggs.
As these big dinosaurs are growing up, there comes a point where they have to start putting some of their resources not just into growth anymore, but into reproduction.
Whether a carnivore or a herbivore, calories are key. To be a successful mother, females need plenty of nutrients. That means high-calorie young leaves and shoots. Or if you're a carnivore, more red meat. Without it, they can't produce eggs.
Females have to be stockpiling resources, big time. Lots of protein, lots of fats, lots of calcium. All those materials have to be stored in the body so that they're available instantly to start producing the eggs as soon as the animal's mated.
Hormones in females stimulate the liver to send yolk to the ovaries. When her eggs are fertilized, the yolk will provide enough nutrition to keep a growing dinosaur embryo alive for as long as 3 months. A dinosaur mother-to-be also needs calcium for eggshells.
The dinosaur eggshell is composed of calcium carbonate. Just like bird eggshells today, like some crocodilian eggs, have this hard calcium carbonate eggshell. And that eggshell protects the developing embryo.
A single female Sauroposeidon produces 300 to 500 eggs each season. That takes a lot of calcium, a mineral in short supply in the plants of the Cretaceous. So just how does this leviathan, a creature requiring almost 400,000 calories a day just to survive, manage to maintain its girth and get enough nutrients to reproduce? Eating lots in springtime is crucial. That's when protein in plants is more available and easier to digest.
Calcium is not very abundant in a lot of plants, and so you have to eat a lot. You have to focus on high-quality foods, high-quality plants, the buds, the shoots, the young leaves, to try to get those minerals, those nutrients, to build the babies.
With Sauroposeidon's voracious appetite, tiny amounts of calcium add up. Bit by bit, it's all stored in her bones, specifically medullary bone.
Medullary bone is very special bone that's laid down only by an ovulating female, and it's laid down to gather together calcium for calcium carbonate eggshells that they are making during ovulation.
Medullary is a layer of bone which lines the interior of leg bones. It has no structural purpose. Instead, it's a mobile store for calcium and other minerals required to make eggshells. Once stored in medullary bone, calcium and minerals can easily be broken down and sent to where it's needed.
So you're looking at the unfolding, the unpacking of something that starts out as a single cell into an animal that's almost the size of a whale, and it has to come off without a hitch.
In Sauroposeidon, evolution has favored something else as well: the production of a tremendous number of eggs every year. And every one of those eggs takes resources.
After mating, a female Sauroposeidon is now starting to grow the eggs inside of her. And eggs are expensive. They're protein and fat and calcium. Calcium for the bones of the embryo eventually, calcium for the shell of the egg.
A single Sauroposeidon lays hundreds of eggs each season. But many are eaten before they hatch, and most hatchlings are devoured by hungry carnivores. Tyrannosaurus rex, on the other hand, has evolved into something entirely different. These powerful meat-eaters are intelligent and well-armed. They're killers and scavengers. A female ready to pass on her genes is on the lookout for a male with huge jaws, a powerful grip, and a mouth full of steel-tough teeth. Sauroposeidon is a herbivore. The evolutionary strategy for this giant is to lay hundreds of eggs in the hope that maybe just one or two survive to adulthood. To build eggs and embryos, they must consume thousands of calories of vegetation. Tyrannosaurus rex is a carnivore. To produce eggs, it also needs nutrients, calcium, and protein. But this female doesn't get calcium from munching on plants. She gets it by crunching bone, the bones of plant eaters.
Tyrannosaur could process a lot more of its prey, be able to digest more. It could get the meat from the marrow, the nutrients from the marrow. It could even digest some of the bone itself.
And there's proof that T-Rex got its calcium straight from the bones of herbivores.
We have T-Rex turds, we have coprolites, fossilized feces from Tyrannosaurus, and it shows pulverized bits of plant-eating dinosaur bone in there. So it munched down and crunched the flesh and the organs and the bones and swallowed all of it. And the bones made it out in digested form out the other end of the T-Rex.
A female Tyrannosaurus rex needs to store the calcium she's building up. And like a Sauroposeidon, she'll store that calcium in her medullary bone. Staying strong is imperative for a female preparing to mate, especially since, compared to a male, she has far fewer chances to get reproduction right.
Females are born with a set number of eggs within them, so that they have only a set number of, I'd call them tickets to eternity, where males produce these by the millions every day. They produce more sperm. Females only have these few eggs, and they have to invest their time, their resources within their bodies in the development of these eggs.
Evolution has also prepared for this difference between males and females.
One of the interesting things about dinosaurs in general, including T-Rex, is that if we look at their skeletons, we often see that there is one form that's bigger bone than the other.
It turns out that those really big ones, those really massive ones, the most scary ones of all, were female.
For a female T-Rex, finding the right male to deliver strong genes and to pass on that one trait that might give her young the edge they need is not easy. Tyrannosaurus rex live a solitary existence, and just a handful roam a huge territory.
The larger the animal, the smaller the population that the surrounding territory and surrounding animals can support. So, actually coming into contact, males and females coming into contact, might be a rare occurrence.
There's little direct competition between males. For T-Rex, it's more about protecting your territory from intruders and tracking every female in your range.
I think the sense of smell would allow a male or to know of an ovulating female probably miles away.
A Tyrannosaurus rex is one of the largest, most powerful predators to ever walk on two legs. But a male hoping to mate must be cautious and keep his distance until he's confident the time is right.
The choreography of courtship in T-Rex would have been interesting to watch. Let's say this is a stranger male attempting to insinuate himself with a female. They're eyeing him with Darwinian calculus. Is this the type of male whose genes we want mixed with our genes to make the next generation?
A T-Rex is not just huge and vicious, it's also clever. Courtship was likely to have followed a strict set of rules.
And the female has to perceive the right signals from the male. So they might, in time, over a span of several days, weeks, start looking for one another. Let's court, let's get together. I don't know, maybe dinner and a movie.
For a male T-Rex, when it comes to impressing the female, there's another problem.
The female T-Rex has much the same shape as the male, but 10, 20, 30% bigger, which means stronger, which means one-on-one, the female's going to win every time.
A lone male trying to attract a female is definitely taking a risk. Correctly reading cues from the opposite sex may make the difference between life and death.
Yeah, if we think about the males being, only 2/3 the weight of a female, the size of a female, if there's going to be any kind of an argument, the female's going to win.
This size difference is true with most dinosaurs, but in the case of T-Rex, it's extreme.
The risk would be if you really make her angry, she might eat you for lunch.
Even for a male who's made it this far, about to be rewarded with his prize, this one final challenge can be deadly.
Now he's in the danger zone. He's within the killing zone. If the females reject him there, they can bite his head off, and that's the end of him in terms of Darwinian calculus.
But in the end, despite the many risks and hazards, the strongest, most well-adapted Tyrannosaurus rex passes on his genes to a new generation. A generation that might just grow more intelligent, a bit stronger, and maybe even tougher than its parents. For males, only the strongest or brightest win the right to their prize, and only their traits will be passed on. Perhaps a longer horn, a stronger frill, a bigger slashing claw, better hearing, sight, or smell. The genes for less useful traits eventually die out. Fossil evidence tells us a lot about how dinosaurs adapt, but reveals little about what courtship for these giants might have been like.
If we imagine these big 3-4 ton tyrannosaurs doing these mating dances, it's kind of weird.
But one thing we do know is that the dangers of mating are real. Fossil evidence points to serious or even fatal injuries, tails crushed, ribs and vertebrae fractured, skulls bitten. Dinosaurs create the next generation at their own risk.
If there's going to be an attempt at mating on the part of the male, it really has to be certain that the female is receptive. Because if she's not, she can say no in quite a dramatic and indeed a fatal way.
There is a reason why evolution put females in charge. When it comes to reproduction, they do the real work. So they get to decide which traits survive and which ones just die out.
The females are really the vital link in the chain here. They're the ones that are building the babies. But a little bit of sperm goes a long way. So most of the males are probably not going to be reproducing.
Like animals today, most male dinosaurs battle it out for the chance to reproduce. Females look for a male who can prove he's stronger, tougher, and maybe more clever than the competition. But sometimes evolution goes another way and rewards highly unusual and very specialized traits. Physically, Parasaurolophus's horn is useless as a weapon. It's hollow and fragile and just 2 millimeters thick. But as a communication device, it's a remarkably effective form of defense, able to send out complex messages warning of danger or distress. Over more than 1,000 generations, this crest grows longer and the sounds it emits grow deeper. Low frequencies able to travel long distances. Highly developed communication skills become a significant evolutionary advantage. And before long, females only want to mate with the male with a good set of pipes.
It's a sound generating organ. It can't help but generate unusual sounds by blowing air through this tube. And because each species has its own distinct shape, each species would have its own distinct sound.
But how did evolution create this bony crest, able to produce sounds that can travel for kilometers? They simply got bigger. On the outside, the tubes appear to be only about 90 centimeters long. But on the inside, chambers loop back and forth, creating as much as 2.5 meters of resonance or natural amplification. Parasaurolophus generates resonant frequencies as low as 40 hertz, a sound almost as deep as a foghorn.
We can now actually model the kinds of sounds that that resonating chamber would make, and it turns out that they're deep sounds, low-frequency sound.
Low-frequency sound waves can transmit for kilometers, even through dense forest. These calls warn of intruders, a significant defensive advantage. And often, as dinosaurs evolved over thousands of years, their physical advantages provided more than just one use. For a Parasaurolophus, the traits that make survival in a savage world possible very soon become the very same traits that attract a mate. For a healthy male, a communication device doubles as the perfect tool for wooing the opposite sex.
This trombone-like structure growing out of the back of the head was used for making dinosaur music during courtship. The males would be calling during the breeding season, attempting to influence multiple females. And the females are calling to challenge the males to prove themselves, because the fundamental fact of courtship is that males lie and females are skeptical. So the skeptical females force the male to go through more and more hoops and loops and hoots to persuade the female to mate.
It's called sexual selection, and like natural selection, it means that females choose traits in males that make survival of their offspring more likely. If these choices are multiplied over thousands of generations, eventually, Deinonychus's slashing claw gets sharper, faster, and more lethal. Triceratops' horn gets longer, and its shield grows tougher. And Parasaurolophus's crest becomes more advanced, and their communication skills better and better.
For Parasaurolophus, a female's concern during the breeding season would mostly be checking out the guys. That is, finding which ones seem to be the healthiest and therefore were potentially the best fathers of the next generation.
Evolution perfects not only Parasaurolophus's ability to make sounds, it also selects genes that improve the ability to hear and interpret those sounds.
Various male Parasaurolophus would presumably be making very loud, very raucous calls of a very particular sort. And the female Parasaurolophus would be judging the quality of that call, probably its sound, which may have represented how healthy the individual was, and its ability to be precise in terms of generating that sound, because it showed that was a creature with a healthy mind, with all the proper genes for a good Parasaurolophus.
Males with the largest crests can produce the richest and lowest frequencies, sounds that can travel for miles. Those same low-frequency calls become highly attractive to females.
We would have different Parasaurolophus competing with each other with these sound calls, and the females probably calling on occasion to say, "Hey baby, that sounds really good. You're the one for me."
For Parasaurolophus, genetic modifications over time give them the tools both to pick up and emit these low-frequency sounds. In fact, over time, they evolve the ability to send and receive extremely low-frequency vibrations called infrasound.
Each species seems to have had its own note or series of notes. And you can have up to 5 different species of duckbill living in one place at one time. So in the breeding season, you'd hear 5 different orchestras, 5 different ranges of courtship note. And you'd feel them through your feet, too, as they go into those really deep notes.
But Parasaurolophus is the exception to the rule. For most females of the Cretaceous, finding a mate who's stronger, more clever, and has more advanced killing tools than the next male is crucial. But that's not all. For a T-Rex male, surviving to adulthood means he's probably had some good parenting himself. And it's likely he's also developed some strong hunting skills. And probably even learned to duck when Quetzalcoatlus swooped down and tried to steal him as a chick. In other words, you don't make it this far without some good genes to pass down. But evolution isn't just about mating. It's also about ensuring those valuable eggs actually hatch and grow up. The prehistoric world of the Cretaceous period. Here roam creatures from the outrageously large to the incredibly terrifying and the truly bizarre. But every dinosaur, no matter how radical, is hatched from an egg. And like the well-engineered bodies they will eventually grow into, evolution has created some of the most advanced eggs history has ever seen.
An egg is like a space capsule. Everything that the embryo is going to need is pretty much in there.
And evolution developed something else. The shell of a dinosaur egg is built like a motorcycle helmet, able to withstand a severe shock. And then for even more protection, there's the albumin, or egg white.
The egg white is kind of a gel and has multiple functions. One is to keep the embryo that's developing moist, but also acts as a shock absorber, because if the egg gets jarred, you don't want to kill the embryo that's developing by a sudden shock.
A well-constructed egg makes it that much more likely that a hatchling will survive. And when that youngster grows up, it will pass on those very same genetic traits that saved it in the first weeks of life. Inside this tiny home, a single fertilized cell divides rapidly. These cells become a myriad of tissue types that will make up bones, skin, nerves, and organs. Dividing cells also form the brains, sensors, and weaponry needed to protect this dinosaur as it grows up. At this embryonic stage, tiny genetic differences, changes that might only affect 1 in a billion traits, make the difference between a hatchling that survives and one that's chomped, stepped on, or even starves to death.
To be able to actually see a baby T-Rex hatching would be something akin to the excitement you would get by going into space, you know. So, I mean, I probably would give maybe just a little more money to go into space than I would to see a T-Rex hatching, but not much more.
The age of dinosaurs is an era of sophisticated biodiversity. Diversity that proves one thing: evolution creates not just one, but many strategies for survival. Yet for one creature, that strategy seems almost cruel. Over her lifetime, a female Sauroposeidon produces thousands of eggs, yet only 2 or 3 survive to adulthood.
So what that tells us is that many, almost all of the offspring are being killed and eaten by predators.
Losing virtually all of your offspring to carnivores sounds like an evolutionary nightmare. But in fact, it's just the opposite. That one survivor, the 1 in 3,000, may just possess the single trait giving it the ability to make a quick escape as its siblings are eaten. Or it might inherit a genetic combination that allows it to grow stronger, bigger, and maybe even just a tiny bit faster.
The sauropods are probably digging these nests, probably kicking out a little hole with the hind foot, squatting down, depositing a few eggs, maybe 5 or 6, maybe a dozen, covering them up, and then just walking away, forgetting about them.
For months, Sauroposeidon eggs are left unguarded, warmed, and protected by nothing more than dirt and rotting vegetation. The nests become killing fields.
So I'm sure that many sauropod nests were found and destroyed by predators before the babies could even hatch.
Yet with so much stacked against them, Sauroposeidon thrived for 15 million years. They're an evolutionary success story. But some scientists believe they could have achieved even more.
If I was going to engineer a super sauropod, I'd give it a bigger brain, because it would be a negligible investment. We're talking about a few more pounds on an animal that already weighs 40 or 50 tons. But if it was smarter, then it could practice more extensive parental care. The babies themselves could be smarter. It could put fewer resources into reproduction and more resources into growing larger.
Growing larger when you already weigh 45 tons sounds impossible, but it isn't.
If I wanted to grow a 200-ton sauropod, that's where I'd start, with about 7 more pounds of brain.
No land animal ever grew to 200 tons, but evolution did keep dinosaurs going for 165 million years. They adapt to a world of tremendous geological change and soaring global temperatures, a world where little stays the same. But then comes catastrophe from the sky. A meteorite strikes the Earth. The age of the great dinosaurs comes to an end, and these huge and magnificent creatures seemingly cease to exist. But things are not always as they appear. Maybe dinosaurs are still here. Maybe they're still all around us, and it seems clues are everywhere. A Sauroposeidon could raise its massive head over 18 meters into the air. But this was only possible because their neck bones were so light, almost 85% hollow.
The neck vertebrae of Sauroposeidon are 4.5 feet long, but they were almost all air.
A T-Rex grew to 6 tons in weight, as big as a killer whale. Yet, like Sauroposeidon, its bones were honeycombed with empty spaces. And there's another clue. The lungs of Deinonychus, T-Rex, and Sauroposeidon are designed like those of living things we see all around us every day.
We look at the respiratory system, it's not like those of mammals at all. It's like something much smaller, much more delicate, like birds.
Graceful, soaring on the breeze, one of the best adapted and most common creatures to inhabit the Earth. Birds are almost certainly descended from the mighty dinosaur.
Everybody knows that birds have hollow bones, and a lot of people think that's an adaptation for flight. What not a lot of people realize is that birds inherited their hollow, air-filled bones from their dinosaurian ancestors.
All around the world, birds, like dinosaurs, fill just about every habitat in every environment, from the rainforest to the mountains to the seacoast. An ostrich at nearly 3 meters tall and over 135 kilos is the largest modern bird. That may pale in comparison to a Tyrannosaurus rex or the giant Sauroposeidon. But the biodesigns which give birds their ability to get up in the air, to maneuver in flight, and to reproduce are clearly found in dinosaurs. Genetic traits that once allowed dinosaurs to grow to mammoth proportions or survive in a world of brutal killers. Features honed by 165 million years of evolution simply never went away. Tools that once served dinosaurs so well have adapted to serve new functions in modern birds. Dinosaurs used hollow bones to grow very large. Birds use them to save weight. Dinosaurs used air sacs to move air along their massive necks. Birds use air sacs to stay aloft for long periods. So in many ways, the only difference between dinosaurs and birds is scale. And there's even evidence that many terrestrial dinosaurs nearly had what it takes to fly. In fact, the arms and hands of Deinonychus worked remarkably like a bird's wings. For Deinonychus, this high-speed motion creates a grasping claw able to dig deep into flesh. In a bird, this same feature allows its wings to flap at those same high speeds, the key to flight.
Deinonychus arms were very specialized, much like modern birds. In fact, like a modern bird, they have the ability to fold their arms, or their wings, if you will, to the side. This is the same folding ability that allows birds to fly today.
The wings of a bird in flight are a living example of Deinonychus's claw in action.
Look at a bird out in nature as it's moving its wings back and forth. The pattern of the joints and the angle of the joints in the wings of birds closely match the pattern we see in Deinonychus.
And there's one final clue, a clue that almost definitively connects birds and dinosaurs. And it's something you'd least expect, something scientists call the furcula, or wishbone. Wishbones today only exist in birds, yet virtually every one of the most ferocious carnivorous dinosaurs had one. In the end, the evidence points to one single conclusion: the mighty T-Rex, the wily Deinonychus, the graceful Quetzalcoatlus, the giant Sauroposeidon were all just supersized birds. So next time you sit down ready to eat your Christmas turkey, just imagine what that bird's great-great-great-great-grandparents could do to you.